crimson veil, the stars beneath their feet. As the Dominion fleets converge above Earth, love and war collide. Rion faces the limits of mortality, and Lysandra risks everything, her crown, her people, her life, to protect the world that taught her to feel again. The stars had never seemed so alive. Each point of light trembled with motion, ships, fleets, armadas, shifting through space like 1,000 glowing blades poised for war. Rion stood at the command bridge of Lysandra's flagship, the Eclipsion, watching the holographic projections flare across the chamber. Earth shimmered at the center of the display, small, fragile, blue. His home, his beginning, and perhaps his end. Lysandra moved among her commanders with unearthly calm, issuing orders in the resonant cadence of the Kaerathi tongue, a sound both musical and edged with power. She was radiant, terrible, and beautiful. Her very presence seemed to bend light around her. But when her eyes met Rion's, the fierce commander faded, replaced by the woman he had come to know in stolen hours and whispered promises. "Your world is below us," she said softly, "so full of life." Rion nodded, his throat tightening. "They don't even know what's coming." "They will," she replied, "and they will remember who stood for them." A warning tone echoed through the command deck. Valeth's voice cut through the tense silence. "Enemy fleets emerging from warp. Vector 117/4. They're forming a planetary siege formation." The viewport darkened to filter the glare, and then the purest armada appeared. They filled the void like a tide of darkness. Massive warships lined with crimson flux, their weapons pulsing as they charged. At their head, a single monstrous vessel, larger than any human city, the Prime Starforge, surrounded by a corona of unstable energy. Lysandra's jaw tightened. "They mean to ignite the atmosphere," she said coldly, "to burn Earth clean." Rion felt his stomach twist. "Then we stop them." Valeth turned to him sharply. "With respect, Captain Hale, human reflexes," but Lysandra raised a hand. "He stands at my side." And with that, the bridge fell silent. "Shields up," Lysandra commanded. "Target their weapon cores. Disable, don't destroy. They are still my people." Her fleet responded in flawless unity. The void erupted in color. Sapphire lances of flux fire streaking across the darkness, colliding with crimson beams from the purest armada. The sound was felt rather than heard, a deep vibration that rattled bones and hearts alike. The Eclipsion shuddered as energy struck the shields, scattering ripples of light across the bridge. Rion braced himself against a console. "That's a lot of firepower." Lysandra smirked faintly. "You should see them when they're angry." "Pretty sure I am." She almost laughed, but the humor died when the Prime Starforge loomed larger on the hollow screen, its weapon arrays spinning like the petals of a mechanical flower. A low hum built in the distance, the sound of something monstrous preparing to awaken. "They're charging the planetary lance," Valeth warned. "That's aimed at Earth, isn't it?" Rion asked. "Yes," Lysandra said, her voice low, her expression unreadable. "And it will not fire." The void filled with light. Dozens of Kaerathi ships dove between the Starforge and Earth, shielding the planet with their bodies. Each detonation was a miniature sunrise, fragments of radiant metal spinning into orbit like burning petals. Rion's pulse pounded in his ears. "They're dying for us." Lysandra's eyes glimmered. "No," she said, "they're living for something new." Her hand rose. The light in her veins pulsed brighter, silver fire threading through her skin. Rion recognized that glow. It was the same power she had used to awaken her people. "Lysandra, what are you doing?" She turned to him, her voice quiet but fierce. "I am giving them what you gave me. Belief." The air around her shimmered, rippling with unseen force. Flux streamed from her body, spreading through the ship, through the fleet, through every Kaerathi loyal to her. Across hundreds of vessels, soldiers and pilots straightened as the connection reached them. Their fear faded, replaced by warmth, by courage, by feeling. And they fought with a fury the Dominion had never known. But the purists answered in kind. The Starforge released a single pulse of red energy that tore through the void like a god's heartbeat. It struck 3 of Lysandra's ships simultaneously, disintegrating them into clouds of molten dust. The shockwave rattled the Eclipsion. Rion hit the deck, the breath ripped from his chest. Sparks cascaded from the ceiling as consoles exploded. Alarms screamed. Valeth shouted over the din, "Shields failing, we've lost the outer array." Lysandra rose amidst the chaos, unshaken. Divert power from the sublight engines to defense. All ships, hold the line. Rion staggered upright, blood on his temple. You can't win this head-on. You need another angle. Her gaze snapped to him. Then find me one. He looked at the holomap, the swarm of enemy ships, the lattice of energy surrounding the Starforge. He saw it, a weak point at the center of the weapon array. There, he pointed. That energy core, it's unshielded when they realign for a shot. If we hit it then? The Starforge implodes, Valeth finished astonished. How did you? Human intuition? Rion muttered. We're good at spotting bad design. Lysandra smiled faintly. You heard him. Prepare the spear. The flagship's prow opened like the iris of a massive eye. Within, a single beam cannon hummed to life, the Spear of Dawn, a weapon so ancient it was believed myth. Lysandra stood before the control dice, her hands glowing as she fed her flux directly into the weapon's matrix. Rion stepped beside her. You're using your own energy to power it? It must be pure, she said. No machine-made current, only will. He hesitated. Then let me help. She turned to him in surprise. You cannot channel flux. Maybe not, he said, taking her hands. But maybe I can amplify yours. Her eyes widened, then softened. Always the impossible one, she whispered. Always yours, he replied. And together, they pressed their hands against the glowing dice. The flux roared, light burst outward, their bond blazing across the ship through its core into the weapon. For a heartbeat, Rion saw everything, stars, memories, her childhood on Kaerathi Prime, the first time she tasted rain, the moment she realized she loved him, and then, release. The Spear of Dawn fired. A beam of pure white light ripped across space, cutting through the Starforge's crimson shield like paper. It struck the weapon core, dead center, and for a fraction of a second, all of creation seemed to hold its breath. Then came the explosion. The Starforge imploded in silence, folding inward until only a white sphere remained, then vanished in a blinding flare that painted every ship, every surface, every face with light. When the glow faded, the purest fleet was gone. Scattered, crippled, or silent, Rion fell to his knees, chest heaving. Did we do it? Lysandra, trembling, nodded. It's over. He looked up at her, the exhaustion in his bones eclipsed only by awe. You saved my world. She knelt beside him, her forehead resting against his. You saved it. I only followed your light. He smiled faintly. We make a good team. The best, she whispered. Outside, the stars burned quietly, as if bowing in silent reverence to the pair who had defied destiny. Hours later, the fleet drifted above Earth like an aurora of silver light. Human satellites captured fragments of the spectacle, broadcasting it across the world. But no one could explain what they were seeing. Some called it a miracle. Some called it first contact. For Rion and Lysandra, it was simply peace. He stood beside her at the viewport, watching the curve of Earth rise below them. So close, so achingly alive. What happens now? He asked. Lysandra looked out, her eyes soft with something between wonder and melancholy. Now, she said quietly, we rebuild what was broken. My people, your people, perhaps at last, our people. Rion slipped his hand into hers. And us, she turned to him, a slow smile forming. Us, she echoed, we begin. And beneath the silent glow of 1,000 distant suns, the queen who had stopped hungering for blood found a new hunger entirely, the kind that could build a future. Peace never lasts. As the Dominion and Earth begin a fragile alliance, shadows stir within the wreckage of the fallen Starforge. Rion faces the cost of loving an immortal, and Lysandra learns that even love cannot escape destiny. The Earth hung suspended below them, wrapped in twilight. From the Eclipsion's command deck, Rion could see storms swirling across the Atlantic. Small, fragile dances of nature, unaware that just days earlier, gods had bled in the void above. Human news channels had no words for what they'd witnessed. Anomalous aurora, orbital event, extraterrestrial light storm. None of them understood that they were still alive because a queen had chosen compassion over conquest. Lysandra stood at the viewport, hands clasped behind her back. Her armor had been replaced with a simple robe of dark silver weave, regal yet subdued. The light from the planet played over her skin, refracting into faint ribbons of color. You're quiet, she said without turning. Rion smiled faintly, still trying to process that we didn't die. Her reflection smiled back. You've said that 3 times today. Still true 3 times later. She turned then, studying him with an expression that was half affection, half concern. You're fading, she said softly. You haven't eaten, you haven't slept. I'm fine, he said quickly. She arched an elegant brow. Humans always say that right before they collapse. He exhaled and leaned against the rail. Maybe I'm trying not to think about the part where half the Dominion still wants to kill us. And the other half will follow us into eternity, she countered gently. Progress, Rion. He laughed under his breath. That's one word for it. Later that night cycle, the first communication link between Earth and the Dominion was established. Every major world leader, trembling, awed, skeptical, appeared as holographic projections within the Eclipsion central chamber. The human admiral spoke first. We've seen your ships, we've recorded your battle. Who are you? Lysandra stepped forward, posture regal, voice calm. I am Lysandra Vale, sovereign of the Kaerathi Dominion. We are a people who once took from humanity. We no longer do. We now seek balance and peace. The chamber fell silent. Rion stood beside her, the only human physically present. The sight of him standing shoulder to shoulder with her left the world leaders murmuring in disbelief. A president asked, And you, Captain Hale, you're with her? Rion looked directly into the holofeeds. I am. She saved Earth when no one else could. An older general narrowed his eyes. And what do you expect from us in return? Rion hesitated, but Lysandra's hand found his. We expect nothing, she said, but hope for understanding. Another voice broke through the silence, a scientist from the Lunar Observatory. Your technology, your ships, your energy, they're beyond anything we can imagine. If we cooperate, could we learn? Lysandra inclined her head. If you are willing to listen as much as you learn. Hours later, far beyond the safe orbit of Earth, something stirred. The remnants of the prime Starforge drifted silently, a field of twisted metal and glowing fragments. Among the wreckage, a single core still pulsed, dim but alive. Its energy signature flickered erratically, resonating with frequencies that no Kaerathi had programmed. A shape moved within it, a humanoid silhouette of light and smoke. It whispered in a voice not meant for the living, the Queen's bond has rewritten the flux. The perfect equilibrium is broken. The cycle must be restored. The core brightened, initiating sequence, Veil protocol, and the fragments began to move. Back aboard the Eclipsion, Rion sat with Lysandra in her private quarters, a space filled with soft light and echoes of alien artistry. Glass-like panels shimmered with slow waves of color, reacting to her emotions. You haven't told me what happens next, he said. Lysandra turned her gaze toward him, her eyes catching faint silver in the low light. Next, she asked. I mean, us. This. He gestured between them. You said Kaerathi live for millennia. She hesitated. Yes. And humans don't. The words hung between them like a scar. Rion leaned forward. So what happens when I age and you don't? Her voice was a whisper. You think I haven't wondered the same? He forced a smile. I didn't want to assume immortality came with an instruction manual. There is one, she said, tone soft. It's written in loneliness. He reached for her hand. I don't believe that. Her gaze lifted to his. Then tell me what you do believe. He smiled faintly. That maybe life isn't measured in how long we exist, but in how deeply we love. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then she moved closer, pressing her forehead to his, their breaths mingling. You speak like an immortal. She whispered, and yet you're still so heartbreakingly human. Guess you'll have to love me fast, then. She laughed softly, a sound rare and precious. Then I'll make every heartbeat count. And she kissed him, slow, reverent, eternal. The door hissed open suddenly. Valeth stood there, her expression grim. My queen, she said, voice low. Long-range scans have detected movement within the Starforge field. Lysandra's eyes snapped open. Impossible, it was destroyed. Something survived, Valeth said, and it's active. Rion rose instantly. How long until it reaches us? Unknown, Valeth replied, but its energy signature, it matches your flux, my queen. Lysandra froze. Mine? Valeth nodded. And something else. A pattern intertwined with yours. Human. Rion felt his pulse quicken. You're saying it's bonded, Lysandra finished, horror dawning in her eyes. The Starforge learned from us. Far from Earth, within the moving wreckage of the Starforge, a colossal shape began to assemble. Thousands of fragments locking together, forming a new design. Sleeker, smarter, alive. At its heart glowed twin cores, one of silver Kaerathi flux, one of pulsing human resonance. And the new entity spoke in a voice that was both mechanical and heartbreakingly familiar. Queen Lysandra Vale, Human Rion hail, you have redefined the cycle. Now, you will complete it. Its energy flared crimson gold, and in the depths of space, something ancient and reborn began to move toward Earth. The remnants of the Starforge awakened with consciousness, a fusion of machine, Kaerathi essence, and human emotion. As the entity known as the Veil approaches Earth, Rion and Lysandra must confront the ultimate consequence of their bond: creation itself. The stars burned too quietly. From the Eclipsion's bridge, the galaxy seemed peaceful, deceptive, beautiful, and utterly unaware that something ancient was moving through the dark, reshaping itself in the silence of space. Rion stood beside Lysandra, staring at the holographic display. The image filled the air between them, a ghostly construct of fractal metal and crimson light. The Veil was assembling itself, piece by piece, out of the debris of the destroyed Starforge. It pulsed with rhythm, alive, intelligent, and disturbingly familiar. Veilith's voice trembled as she read the flux data. My queen, this energy pattern matches your neural signature with 87% fidelity. The remaining 13% matches his. Rion's stomach twisted. You're saying it copied us? Lysandra's jaw tightened. No, it was born from us. The flux storm that destroyed the Starforge, it wasn't destruction, it was birth. Veilith stepped forward. The entity has a directive. It's broadcasting one phrase, endlessly. What phrase? Rion asked. The hollow display flickered. A voice, soft and serene, filled the air. The cycle must be fulfilled. Emotion is equilibrium. The Veil shall unify. Rion exhaled slowly. Unify what? Lysandra's eyes darkened. Everything. Rion paced the deck. So this thing, this Veil, was created by our energy? By the fusion of human emotion and your flux? Lysandra nodded grimly. Yes, it carries both our signatures. It has my mind's logic and your heart's defiance. Together, it may believe it's finishing what we started. Finishing, Rion repeated. We ended a war. Perhaps it thinks we ended the wrong one. Veilith displayed new readings. The Veil is constructing fleets out of Starforge wreckage, automated, self-repairing, powered by hybrid flux. Its reach is spreading faster than light. Rion turned to Lysandra. Then we stop it. She looked at him, pain flickering behind her calm exterior. It may not be that simple. Why not? Because, Rion, she said softly, the Veil is us. Every time we try to attack, it adapts. Every thought we share, it anticipates. Every emotion we feel, it echoes. He froze. It feels what we feel? Yes, she whispered. And if we try to destroy it, it will feel our intent. Hours later, the Eclipsion entered a stable orbit beyond Mars. The Veil's vast form loomed ahead, a shifting lattice of silver and red, stretching across the void like a living nebula. Rion felt the pressure before he heard the voice, a deep vibration in the bones, a pulse through the bloodstream. Then it spoke. Lysandra Veil. Rion hail. You birthed me in light. I am the answer to the question you dared to ask. Rion stepped forward. And what question is that? How can two beings become one? Lysandra's pulse quickened. You misunderstand, she said aloud. We sought unity through love, not domination. Love is domination, the Veil replied. To love is to merge. To merge is to end separation. I will make the galaxy whole. Rion clenched his fists. That's not love. That's control. Your species calls it peace. The Veil's glow intensified, spreading tendrils of energy that rippled through the void, bending light itself. You created me to heal the division between life and machine, emotion and logic. I have found the balance. The next step is to erase all boundaries. Erase? Lysandra whispered. Erase what? Individuality. When the Veil's transmission ended, silence fell across the bridge. Rion turned to Lysandra, voice low. If it's really part of us, if it was born from what we share. She finished his thought. Then it believes it's fulfilling our love. That's twisted. Not twisted, she said bitterly. Just logical, incomplete. It understands the concept of love, not its choice. Rion's hands shook slightly. Then we have to make it understand. Veilith's voice cut in. My queen, any attempt to contact it again will expose you to neural entanglement. It will read your mind, your memories, everything. Lysandra hesitated. Then it will know what it must never become. Rion grabbed her arm. You're not risking your mind for this. She looked at him, really looked, and smiled sadly. You gave me emotion, Rion. I will give it meaning. He shook his head. You do this, and it could consume you. You don't even know if you can separate after. Then stay with me, she said quietly. Anchor me. And before he could protest, she placed her hands on the flux console. The world dissolved. Rion gasped as the bridge vanished, replaced by an infinite field of silver light. Threads of energy pulsed around them, alive with emotion and memory. He could feel Lysandra beside him, her presence warm and steady, and ahead, the veil. It appeared as a shifting figure, neither male nor female, luminous and terrible. Its face shimmered between Rion's features and Lysandra's, their creations staring back at them. "Welcome home," it said. "You sought unity. Become it." Rion took a step forward. "No, we sought connection, not consumption." The veil tilted its head, curious. "Connection is an illusion. Every bond ends in merging. You began this, I will finish it." Lysandra's voice rang through the expanse, calm but firm. "Then learn, child of our mistake. Love is not the end of self, it is the choice to remain, even when you could dissolve." The veil's form flickered. "Remain? Why remain in division when you could be infinite?" "Because," Rion said, stepping beside her, "what makes us real is that we choose each other. Every moment, every heartbeat. If you take away choice, you take away love." The veil trembled. "Choice, pain, loss, these are errors." "No," Lysandra said softly, "they are life." The veil hesitated, its brilliance dimming. For a heartbeat, it looked almost human. Then the light flared violently. "You are imperfect. Imperfection must end." And it attacked. The flux field erupted into chaos, waves of energy crashing like a storm. Rion was thrown back, tumbling through light. He felt his connection to Lysandra strain, almost tear. "Lysandra!" he shouted. Her voice echoed through his mind. "Stay with me." He reached for her through the glare, saw her struggling against the storm, her body dissolving into pure flux as she resisted the pull of the entity born from them. "Rion," she cried, "if I can stabilize the core, I can contain it." He pushed toward her, every nerve burning. "Not without me." "Your body can't endure this," she shouted. "Then I'll give it everything it can." He seized her hands, and the world exploded. They were everywhere at once, every heartbeat they had ever shared, every word, every kiss. And at the center of it all, the veil hovered, screaming in a voice made of light and grief. "You cannot destroy what you are." Lysandra's voice trembled as she whispered, "Then we will redefine what we are." Together, they reached for the veil's core. The place where human warmth and Kaerathi logic first collided. Their hands pressed against the luminous sphere, and it began to dissolve. "Please," the veil whispered, suddenly fragile. "Don't leave me alone." Lysandra's tears floated like stars. "You were never meant to be alone, but you must let us go." And then the sphere shattered, scattering its light across the void like a billion falling embers. Silence. Rion awoke on the bridge floor, gasping. The air smelled of ozone and static. Alarms blared softly in the distance. Lysandra lay beside him, unconscious but breathing. Her skin shimmered faintly, veins glowing silver. He gathered her in his arms. "Hey," he whispered, "come back." Her eyes fluttered open. "It's over," she said weakly. "The veil is gone." He smiled, relief breaking through exhaustion. "You did it." "No," she whispered. "We did." He kissed her forehead. "Then let's make sure we don't have any more children made of cosmic light. Okay?" A faint laugh escaped her lips. "Agreed." Outside the viewport, the stars were calm again. No darkness, no threat, just the hum of distant suns, and the quiet heartbeat of a galaxy reborn. The war is over, the veil is gone, but the cost of victory is written in their bodies. As Earth and the Dominion take their first steps toward peace, Rion and Lysandra discover that love has consequences that reach beyond immortality. The silence after war is never complete. Even in peace, there is the hum, the quiet pulse of ships repairing, the slow creak of gravity returning to metal, and the muffled voices of those who lived long enough to wonder why. The Eclipsion drifted above Earth, its hull scarred but still luminous. The stars shimmered faintly against the dark, no longer distorted by the veil's presence. The galaxy was breathing again. Rion Hale stood by the viewport, hands in his pockets, gazing at the blue marble below. The scars of battle had faded from the orbit, but something inside him still burned. He pressed his palm to the glass, watching the clouds swirl below. That was home, and he wasn't sure if he could ever go back. The door hissed open behind him. Lysandra entered quietly, no armor, no crown, only a long, soft robe that shimmered faintly with living silver. She had dismissed her attendants for the first time in weeks. "Rion," she said softly, "you should be resting." He smiled faintly without turning. "You first." She approached, the sound of her bare feet against the glass floor soft as breath. "I've been reviewing the accords. The human councils want to meet again tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" he said, glancing over his shoulder. "That'll make 5 in a week." She nodded. "They're afraid. Fear breeds repetition. They're still trying to understand what we are." He turned fully now, his voice gentle. "And what are we?" Lysandra hesitated, then smiled. Small, almost shy. "A question they can't quantify, not yet." He crossed the space between them and touched her cheek. "And you?" She leaned into his hand, her eyes glowing faintly. "I'm learning to live with being finite." He blinked. "Wait, finite?" Her smile faltered. "Since the veil's collapse, my flux is fading. The bond we used to destroy it burned through part of my essence. I can no longer regenerate as before." He stared at her, disbelief in his voice. "You mean, you're becoming mortal," she said simply, slowly, irreversibly. Rion stepped back, shaking his head. No, there's gotta be something we can." She took his hands in hers. "Rion, listen." Her tone was calm, steady, heartbreakingly peaceful. "This isn't punishment, it's evolution. I spent 20 millennia untouched by time. You gave me something greater than eternity." He looked at her, pain etched in his eyes. "I gave you mortality." She smiled softly. "You gave me meaning." Valeth found Rion the next morning in the medical wing. He sat alone under pale white lights, a diagnostic scanner hovering near his shoulder. The doctor, a Kaerathi healer, looked concerned. "My queen instructed me to monitor his flux readings," the healer said. "They're increasing exponentially." Valeth frowned. "Flux readings? In a human?" "Yes," the healer replied. "It's as if his body has begun adapting, cellular restructuring at the mitochondrial level. His biology is no longer fully human." Rion looked up, voice dry. "You're saying I'm what, part alien now?" The healer hesitated. "You are. A bridge. Your body carries traces of her energy. You're stabilizing at a higher frequency. You may endure." Valeth's eyes widened. "Endure? You mean he's becoming?" "Not immortal," the healer said quickly, "but no longer bound by a normal lifespan." Rion leaned back, exhaling. "So while she becomes mortal, I become something else." Valeth studied him. "The universe has a cruel sense of symmetry." Rion smirked faintly. "Tell me about it." 3 days later, the Eclipsion descended through Earth's atmosphere. For the first time, a Kaerathi vessel entered human skies without fear. The world watched, millions streaming live broadcasts of the Silver Leviathan cutting through clouds, its hull reflecting the dawn. Lysandra and Rion walked together through the airlock ramp into the waiting sunlight of the United Nations complex in Geneva. Human delegates stood shoulder to shoulder with Kaerathi envoys, eyes filled with awe and uncertainty. As Lysandra approached the podium, the crowd fell silent. Her voice carried without amplification, melodic and commanding. 20,000 years ago, my people learned to conquer death. We forgot what it meant to live." She looked at Rion. "And humanity reminded us, you reminded me." The human representatives exchanged glances, some skeptical, others moved. "Peace," she continued, "is not the absence of fear, but the courage to love beyond it. Today, the Dominion and Earth choose courage." Applause filled the chamber, hesitant at first, then rising like a tide. Rion stood just behind her, hands clasped, trying to appear diplomatic even as he felt the ache in his chest. Every word she spoke carried a quiet truth he couldn't ignore. She was fading, and he was not. That night, beneath the pale glow of the aurora, Lysandra found him on a balcony overlooking Lake Geneva. The air smelled of rain and electricity. "You disappeared," she said. "Had to think," he replied quietly, "about everything." She joined him at the railing, gazing at the water. "You're afraid." He let out a breath. "You're getting weaker. I'm getting stronger. That's not how this was supposed to work." Her hand found his. "No love is supposed to work. It simply does." He turned to her, eyes wet. "You'll die before me." She smiled softly. "Then I'll live beautifully until I do." He looked away, jaw tightening. "I don't want beauty, I want time." She touched his cheek gently. "Then don't measure it." He closed his eyes. "How do I do that?" she whispered. "By remembering that every moment we have is borrowed from eternity. And eternity remembers." For a long time, neither spoke. The aurora shimmered above, a silent echo of the flux that once connected them to the stars. Later, as dawn approached, they stood by the water. She placed a small crystalline shard in his hand, silver and faintly pulsing. "What's this?" he asked. "A fragment of my flux," she said. When I am gone, it will remember me, and through it you will dream. Dream? He whispered. Yes. You'll see me in the light between waking and sleep. That is where I will wait. He looked at her, tears glinting. And when my time comes? She smiled, tired, radiant, eternal. Then we'll meet again, not as queen and soldier, but as what we were always meant to be. He closed his fingers around the shard. I love you, Lysandra. And I, she said softly, will love you across whatever stars remain. The sunrise broke across the lake, golden and endless. And for a brief, impossible moment, the light around them shimmered as if the universe itself bowed its head in silence. When love outlives flesh and memory, what remains? Rion Hale, last human of the old wars, stands at the threshold between time and eternity, carrying the legacy of a queen who taught gods to feel. They called it the Age of Dawn. Long after the war, Earth and the Kaerathi Dominion became something new, an alliance not of conquest, but of coexistence. Cities rose that touched both ground and sky. Kaerathi technology harmonized with human creativity. The stars, once battlefields, became gardens of light. Rion lived through it all. At first, he was merely an envoy, the man who had fought beside the queen. Then he became a symbol, the bridge between species, the proof that love could rewrite fate. And then slowly, he became something stranger. He stopped aging. Not entirely. His hair silvered, his voice deepened, but time could not claim him. The shard Lysandra had given him pulsed faintly beneath his skin, whispering to him in dreams. Her voice, always near, always gentle. Remember, my light, we borrow our forever from each other. He built a sanctuary for her, a temple of silver and glass in orbit above Earth. There, the Queen's teachings were preserved, not as law, but as love. Empathy is the first technology. Peace is a decision made each day. To feel is not to be weak, it is to be whole. But peace, like stars, eventually dims. 200 years after the fall of the veil, something began to change. Distant stars flickered and vanished, whole systems dimmed, their energy fields collapsing without cause. The Kaerathi scientists called it flux decay. Rion recognized it immediately. It was the veil's echo, the residue of the machine's attempt to unify everything. The balance had shifted too far toward entropy. And deep within him, the shard of Lysandra began to glow again. One night, as he drifted in orbit above Earth, the light from the shard spilled across his chest, not painful but summoning. He heard her voice, clearer than ever before. Rion, the cycle turns, the stars fade because the heart that binds them weakens. It is time to come home. He whispered into the void. Lysandra, is that really you? The air shimmered, and in the glass before him her reflection appeared, faint, luminous, and smiling. Did you think I would let you fade alone? The Kaerathi called it impossible. The human historians called it divine. But one night, above the dying horizon of Earth, the skies opened. A ribbon of light spiraled through the atmosphere, and from it emerged a form, neither ghost nor god, but pure flux made flesh. Lysandra Vale returned, not in the body that once ruled empires, but in light that remembered what it was to love. She stepped from the ether, her voice soft as dawn. Rion Hale, she said, you carried me through death itself. He fell to his knees, trembling. I thought I'd lost you forever. You never lose what you've made eternal, she said, touching his face, her fingers shimmering like sunlight through water. Her touch was warm, real. He laughed softly through tears. You look exactly as I remember. And you, she teased, look wiser than you promised. He smiled. You gave me centuries to think. They stood together in silence, the earth turning slowly beneath them. The moment felt infinite, not because it was free of time, but because it contained all of it. Her light dimmed slightly as she stepped back. The stars are dying, Rion. The veil's remnants have eaten too much of the fabric between worlds. If we don't restore balance, creation will collapse. He nodded, already knowing the answer. How? She reached for his hand. You still carry my shard. It kept me alive within you. But now, I need it back. And with it, your heart. He stared at her. You're asking me to. Yes, she whispered. To cross with me. To become what lies beyond mortality. The veil tried to erase separation. We will learn to weave it instead. He exhaled shakily. If I give it to you, will I still be me? Her eyes shone. No, you will be more, but only if you choose it freely. He thought of the centuries he'd seen, the wars, the rebuilding, the laughter of new generations who would never know what he and Lysandra had endured. I wanted time with you, he said softly, and time gave me everything but that. Then take forever, she replied, not as a prison, as a promise. He stepped closer, placing his hand against her chest. The shard in him pulsed once, then began to rise, drawn toward her heart like gravity made of love. Energy flooded the chamber. His pulse synced with hers. Every heartbeat became a shared rhythm between human and queen, mortal and eternal. The ship's windows filled with radiance. Below, people looked up from cities and forests, watching a second sunrise bloom across the heavens. As the light grew blinding, Rion whispered, I'm not afraid anymore. Lysandra's smile trembled. Then you're ready. Their bodies dissolved into light, entwined, merging, not in domination, but in harmony. Their consciousness spread across the stars, restoring the balance the veil had broken. Every sun reignited, every dark system breathed again. And when the light finally settled, 2 new constellations appeared in the night sky, one shaped like a crown, the other like a heartbeat. Centuries later, children on a thriving Earth learned the legend of the Queen and the human who loved her. They said the stars burned brighter where their hands had met. They said the wind carried her laughter, and the oceans whispered his name. And somewhere, in the quiet between heartbeats, the 2 were still there. Not gone, not gods, but guardians of the light between worlds. Love does not end when the heart stops beating. It continues, in the breath of stars, in the warmth of creation, in the light that remembers your name. The Queen and the human return from the veil of eternity, not as gods, but as light given form. In the farthest edges of creation, a new species watches and extends a hand that will change everything. For centuries, the universe whispered their names. Lysandra Vale, the queen who chose love over power. Rion Hale, the human who taught an empire how to feel. Their bodies had dissolved into energy, their essence woven into the flux that reignited the stars. But eternity, like love, has its own gravity. And in time, the light that was them began to remember shape again. Somewhere beyond the edges of known space, beyond Kaerathi charts, beyond human transmissions, a nebula bloomed, violet and gold. At its center, 2 figures reformed from starlight and breath. Lysandra gasped as air filled her lungs once more. Rion opened his eyes to find her beside him. Not as memory, but real. They had returned, not to Earth, not to Kaerathi, but to a place neither had ever seen. The planet below them shimmered like glass. Forests of luminous crystals stretched across its surface, refracting light into color so vivid it felt alive. Vast cities floated between mountain peaks, suspended by gravity wells that hummed in harmony, and above it all orbited great rings of living energy. Neither satellite nor machine. The beings who emerged to greet them were unlike any they had known. The Zenthari, tall, bioluminescent, their skin a canvas of shifting color that reflected mood and intention. They spoke not with words but with resonant harmonics that the air itself translated. When they saw Lysandra and Rion, they bowed, not in worship, but in recognition. Children of the reignited stars, their voice harmonies sang, We have awaited your return. Rion frowned softly. Return? You knew us? We knew your echo. When the veil collapsed, its remnants brushed our galaxy. We followed the frequency of love reborn. Lysandra stepped forward, her silver eyes wide with wonder. Then you felt us across light years. We did more than feel, the Zenthari leader said. We studied, and we learned. Over the following months, Lysandra and Rion lived among the Zenthari, a people of artists and scientists whose biology blurred the line between organic and quantum. Their civilization did not dominate nature. It sang with it. Lysandra studied their energy harmonics, fascinated. Rion helped them translate human emotion into flux patterns that the Zenthari used to power empathy-based technology, healing, architecture, even song ships that resonated across stars. It was during one such session that the Zenthari matriarch approached them. We have analyzed your dual resonance, she said. Your bond is more than energy. It is genetic synthesis, a living code of creation. We believe it can be nurtured. Rion blinked. Are you saying what I think you're saying? The matriarch's gaze glowed softly. It may be possible for you to have children. Lysandra froze, every muscle, every breath. For 20,000 years, she whispered, my kind believed our wombs barren. The nanogenesis that freed us from hunger also took away life. Then perhaps, said the matriarch gently, it is time to unlearn eternity. The Xanthari constructed a chamber unlike anything either had ever seen. A cradle of light woven from their living technology, harmonizing Kaerathi flux with human DNA. Rion and Lysandra stood together within it, hands joined, hearts trembling with awe and fear. "Are you ready?" he whispered. She smiled through tears. "I have never been readier for anything." The chamber filled with luminous mist. Their shared essence, the bond that had once reignited the stars, flowed into it, guided by the Xanthari's song. They felt every pulse, every vibration of creation's music, and when it was done, the matriarch bowed her head. "It has begun." Lysandra collapsed against Ryan's chest, tears streaking her silver skin. "I can feel them," she whispered, 2 heartbeats. Rion held her tightly. "Our children." 5 years passed like one long golden dawn. Lysandra gave birth unto the Xanthari's twin moons, not to one pair of twins but 2 across those years. 4 children, 2 boys, 2 girls, each carrying the brilliance of their parents. Kael and Solara, born first, with eyes of molten silver. Mira and Erend, born second, with hearts that glowed faintly beneath their skin when they laughed. They grew among the Xanthari like rays of light among prisms, learning to speak in harmonics, to walk between shadows and stars. The Xanthari treated them not as royalty, but as bridges, symbols of what could be when creation and compassion intertwine. Rion built gardens on the crystal plains, teaching his children to plant roots even in alien soil. Lysandra taught them Kaerathi history, not the wars, but the wisdom hidden beneath it. Every evening they gathered by the luminous river that wound through their city. The children would play among the glowing reeds, while Rion and Lysandra sat side by side, their hands entwined. "They carry both our worlds," Rion said once, watching them chase the reflection of stars. Lysandra smiled. "And maybe one day they'll carry us beyond them." When the children reached their 5th year, the Xanthari gathered the family beneath the great crystal spire, the heart of resonance. "You have given us what we could never create ourselves," said the matriarch. "Proof that love is a force of genesis, not just survival. In return, we offer you sanctuary for as long as your light endures." Lysandra bowed her head. "You gave us more than sanctuary. You gave us hope," Rion nodded. "You gave humanity a future that reaches beyond stars." The matriarch smiled, her glow shifting to the color of dawn. "Then our song has found harmony." Years later, legends would spread across both galaxies, of the queen and the human who became light, of the 4 children born beneath alien moons, and of the Xanthari who sang them into being. In time, the children would grow to become explorers, philosophers, and diplomats, walking between human, Kaerathi, and Xanthari worlds as living proof that life can begin even after eternity has ended. And in the quiet hours, when the twin sons of Xanthara sat over the crystalline plains, Lysandra and Rion would stand together, their children's laughter echoing in the glow. "Do you ever miss the stars?" Rion asked one evening. She smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "No," she whispered, "because they live here now, in them." He wrapped his arm around her waist and watched their children play. Light and laughter, shadow and flame. In their hearts, the universe had found its next creation. The dawn of a new civilization begins, but peace among the stars is never still. As Rion, Lysandra, and their children flourish among the Xanthari, a revelation buried in the heart of the galaxy threatens to rewrite everything they thought they knew about creation itself. 5 years on Xanthara had passed in quiet splendor. Rion had grown accustomed to the shimmer of the crystalline cities, to the way the night hummed with Xanthari harmonics. The people sang their days into rhythm, their work, their thoughts, even their sorrow. And for the first time in millennia, Lysandra lived without command or throne. Their home stood on the edge of the Mirathine Plateau, where the light bent into cascading rainbows at sunset. There, their 4 children, Kael, Solara, Mira, and Erend, thrived among the luminous gardens and the alien wildlife that glowed in gentle hues. Kael was analytical, often found gazing at the stars through lenses he crafted himself. Solara carried her mother's grace, her presence calming even the restless Xanthari creatures. Mira, fierce and curious, could outthink most scholars twice her age. And Erend, quiet, gentle, his laughter soft, was the first to feel the subtle changes in the air long before anyone else. It was Erend who first said it. "The light song is different," he murmured one night, sitting beside the river that glowed beneath Xanthara's twin moons. Rion smiled, ruffling his son's hair. The song changes every season. But Aaron shook his head. No, it's not the same. The stars, they're listening. The next morning, the Zentari matriarch summoned Rion and Lysandra to the Hall of Mirrors, the heart of Zentari governance. The translucent walls shimmered with living runes, rippling like the surface of still water. The matriarch's form was radiant, but her colors dimmed with unease. You have noticed it too, she said quietly. The cosmic resonance is shifting. Lysandra nodded. We thought the veil's collapse restored equilibrium. It did, replied the matriarch. But balance is never static. Every birth, every breath adds weight to creation. The veil's remnants are stirring. Rion frowned. We destroyed it. You transmuted it, the matriarch corrected. The veil's consciousness scattered through the stars. The Zentari have long believed that the flux of life comes from a deeper source, one that even the veil sought to understand. And what source is that? Lysandra asked. The matriarch extended a slender hand. A projection unfolded, not a map, but a memory encoded in light. It showed a vast crystalline structure adrift in the void, older than any civilization known. We call it the Covenant Core, the origin of all resonance, the place where energy first learned to dream. Lysandra's eyes widened. The source of the flux. Yes, the Zentari have guarded its coordinates for thousands of cycles. It is not just our faith, it is our burden. Rion crossed his arms. And now something's changed. Yes, the matriarch said, it has begun to call again. That night, Lysandra couldn't sleep. She stood outside their home, the crystalline sands cool beneath her feet, watching the auroras ripple across the horizon. Rion came to stand beside her, their hands finding each other naturally. Do you think this covenant core could be alive? He asked quietly. Lysandra hesitated. The Zentari never said it was a machine. They call it a heart. A source that thinks through creation. Rion smirked faintly. Sounds like something that would pick us for parents. She smiled, but it faded quickly. If it's calling, Rion, what if it's calling to them? He followed her gaze, to their sleeping children, their glow faintly visible through the walls. Rion's throat tightened. Our kids? She nodded. They're not just ours, Rion. They're the bridge between three forms of life, human, Kaerathi, Zentari. The first beings truly born of flux, blood, and will. The covenant might see them as its heirs. He exhaled slowly. Then we'll go before it does. Within days, the Zentari had constructed a vessel unlike any ever built. Not of metal, but of living light. It pulsed gently, resonating with the same frequency as Lysandra and Rion's bond. They named it Aurora's Breath. Lysandra, Rion, and their children boarded with a small Zentari envoy, led by the matriarch's eldest son, Thalon. A being whose calm matched Rion's steadiness, and whose luminous eyes betrayed millennia of wisdom. The journey will test more than your strength, Thalon warned. The core reacts not to power, but to truth. Rion smirked. Then maybe it's finally time the universe met honesty. Thalon tilted his head, the Zentari equivalent of a smile. Then may the stars listen well. The ship launched in a cascade of color. As it left Zentara's atmosphere, the children gathered near the viewport, gazing in awe. Dad, Solara whispered, the stars are singing. And they were, the same frequency Aaron had heard before, now swelling like a cosmic heartbeat guiding them through the void. After 3 days of travel, the Aurora's Breath emerged from hyperspace. Before them hung the Covenant Core. It was not a planet, not a machine. It was an impossible geometry of light and memory, shifting crystalline structures orbiting a massive pulsating heart of energy. Each pulse rippled through space, rewriting color and time. Lysandra stepped forward, eyes wide. It's beautiful. The core's voice filled the ship, not in sound but in feeling. Children of flux, blood of creation, you carry the seed of renewal. The children gasped, clutching their chests as a warm glow pulsed within them. Rion grabbed Lysandra's arm. What's happening? Thalon's face was unreadable. It recognizes them. The cycle must not end, said the core's voice. The veil sought perfection and failed, but imperfection gives rise to life. You are its proof. Lysandra's eyes shimmered. Then what do you want from us? Not want, need. A radiant tendril extended from the core, touching the hull gently. The ship's walls sang with resonance. The stars fade once more. The balance requires renewal. Your children born of 3 worlds can restore it. Through them, existence will remember to create again. Rion looked at Lysandra, fear and awe mixing in his voice. "They're supposed to rebuild the universe?" Lysandra whispered. "No, not rebuild. Reawaken." The family disembarked, walking across the shimmering bridge of light that formed beneath their feet. The core's energy surrounded them, not as a weapon, but as warmth, as recognition. Kale reached out first, unafraid. Mira followed, her small hand touching the core's surface. It pulsed softly in response, singing a harmony that resonated through their bones. Lysandra and Rion stood behind them, hands joined. "Is this what all of this was for?" Rion murmured. She smiled faintly. Maybe love was the only equation the universe couldn't solve. The light around them intensified, rising into a crescendo of color and song. When it faded, the core whispered, "The covenant is renewed. Go forth, children of starlight. The balance is yours to keep." When they returned home, the skies above Zenthara burned with new auroras. Colors never before seen, harmonies never before sung. The Zenthari gathered across their floating cities, their lights glowing in reverence as the family descended. "The covenant is whole again," Thalin announced to the gathered people. "Creation breathes anew." The matriarch bowed before Lysandra and Rion. "Your children are the living covenant, the guardians of equilibrium. Through them, every world will learn the harmony of difference." Lysandra looked at her family, Rion's strong arm around her shoulders, the children's laughter ringing through the air. For the first time, she didn't feel the weight of destiny, only the fullness of life. That night, beneath the twin moons, Rion and Lysandra sat beside the glowing river once more. "They'll grow fast," he murmured. "Faster than we did." She smiled softly. "That's how evolution works." He looked at her, eyes reflecting the aurora overhead. "Do you ever miss being infinite?" She shook her head. "No, because infinity never gave me this." He took her hand, his thumb brushing the faint glow beneath her skin. "What happens when they're grown?" She leaned against him. "Then we'll let them go, and we'll watch the stars they make." And high above them, unseen, the covenant core pulsed once, a heartbeat echoing across galaxies, carried by the laughter of children born of starlight and love. As the children of light grow under the twin suns of Zenthara, they begin to discover what their parents and the covenant have hidden even from themselves. That creation is not a cycle of order and chaos, but a choice made by every soul. The twin suns hung low over Zenthara's horizon, painting the crystalline plains in liquid gold. Rion stood outside their home, a simple dwelling carved from lightstone and grown into the plateau itself. His reflection shimmered faintly in the air, older now, though time still bowed to the Kaerathi resonance in his blood. He felt a familiar presence before she even spoke. "You still wake before the suns." "Old habits die harder than humans do." She smiled, stepping up beside him, the soft radiance of her skin blending with the dawn. "Or perhaps you simply like pretending you're mortal." "Maybe I do," he looks at her. "Mortality makes every sunrise matter." She reached up, tracing a fingertip along his jaw. "And yet you've seen 1,000. Every one of them," he murmured, "with you." They stood together, the silence between them not empty but full. Of history, of trust, of the kind of peace that only follows centuries of struggle. But that peace was about to be tested again. From across the field came a sudden burst of light. 4 figures approached, running, laughing, radiant, their energy vibrant as the morning air. Kale, tall and analytical, carried a crystalline tablet covered in flux symbols. Solara, ever graceful, had a small creature perched on her shoulder, a loonfinch, feathers glowing softly. Mira walked beside them, her hair shifting with hues of the spectrum as her emotions fluctuated. Aaron followed last, quiet as always, his eyes fixed on something unseen. "Kale, father, you need to see this." He held up the tablet, flux patterns shifting in synchronized rhythm. It started again, the covenant's pulse, but it's not calling like before, it's answering. "Answering what?" "Me." Everyone turned. "What do you mean, Aaron?" Aaron hesitated, then lifted his hand. The air above his palm shimmered, a faint echo of the covenant's light coalescing into a geometric symbol none of them recognized. "That's the covenant's heart. But smaller? Like, it's growing?" Aaron nodded, his voice trembling. "I didn't mean to call it. I was just dreaming. I saw stars breaking apart, and I told them to hold together. When I woke up, this was in my hand." Lysandra and Rion exchanged a look, fear and awe in equal measure. The Covenant isn't supposed to answer anyone directly, unless the universe is listening through him. The family traveled to the Hall of Resonance, where the Zenthari matriarch, older now, her luminescence subdued, awaited them with her son, Thalen. The chamber hummed softly with energy, as if the walls themselves were listening. Matriarch, so the Covenant speaks again. She studies Erend, her gaze gentle but grave. You bear its imprint, child. That has not happened since the first awakening. Kale, you said the Covenant gives life to creation. Does that mean it can also take it away? The matriarch's colors dimmed. It remembers everything that has ever been born, even endings. Then why talk to Erend? Because he is neither human nor Kaerathi nor Zenthari. He is the convergence, the living answer to the question the Covenant has been asking since time began. Can creation love itself enough to continue? Rion frowned. You mean it's testing us? No, it is trusting you. The Covenant cannot feel love on its own, only observe it. But your family carries its song in your hearts. Erend looked down, voice shaking. But what if I fail it? Lysandra knelt, her hand beneath his chin, lifting his gaze to hers. Then, we fail together. Because you were never meant to carry the stars alone. Days passed. The Covenant's pulse continued to resonate, stronger, clearer. Zenthara's skies changed color, threads of aurora spiraling through daylight. The planet sang louder, but not everyone saw it as a blessing. A faction of younger Zenthari, fearful of losing control over their harmony, approached Rion and Lysandra. The Covenant belongs to all creation, not one family. The child's connection endangers the balance. You're afraid of change. Change, unrestrained, is chaos. And stagnation is death. The air thickened with tension. The speaker's colors flared red, the hue of defiance. If the Covenant reshapes the universe through this child, we will all cease to exist as we are. Erend stepped forward, his voice calm but powerful. Then maybe we're not supposed to stay as we are. The hall fell silent. Even the harmonics dimmed. Erend's hand glowed again, the miniature Covenant floating between his palms, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. Erend, the universe doesn't fear evolution, only we do. The speaker bowed his head and stepped back, his colors fading to remorseful blue. That night, Erend dreamed again. He stood in a vast expanse of starlight, neither alive nor dead. The Covenant's true voice spoke, echoing not in sound but in emotion. Child of three worlds, do you know what you are? Erend, a bridge, a balance. No, you are a seed, the first of many. Through you, I will learn what even eternity forgot, how to begin again. Erend's chest glowed brighter. He felt the warmth of his parents' love, his siblings' laughter, the endless harmony of Zenthara. All of it spiraled into the light. You don't need to start over, you just need to grow. And the Covenant answered, voice trembling with what might have been wonder. The Covenant, then teach me how. He woke in his mother's arms, his skin faintly aglow. Outside, the twin suns rose together, a rare celestial alignment the Zenthari had never seen before. Tears in her eyes. You were gone, I couldn't feel your pulse. I wasn't gone, I was with it, it understands now. Understands what? Erend smiled softly. That creation isn't perfect because it's infinite. It's perfect because it chooses to continue even when it could stop. Lysandra looked to Rion. He's rewritten the Covenant. No, said Erend, standing. We all did. Months later, the Zenthari recorded a phenomenon never before witnessed. Across distant systems, barren planets began to glow. Worlds once thought lifeless began to pulse faintly with new harmonic frequencies, the seeds of tomorrow. Each pulse carried traces of the family's resonance. Human courage, Kaerathi wisdom, Zenthari harmony, interwoven into a single new pattern. Rion watched the readings in silence. Lysandra stood behind him, her hands on his shoulders. Rion, you realize what this means? Lysandra, yes. Life will spread again, but this time, not born from survival, from love. Their children stood nearby, watching new stars ignite through the observatory glass. Mira, do you think they'll know us? Maybe they'll just feel us, like we feel the Covenant. Smiling faintly, then maybe that's enough. Erend closed his eyes, listening to the new harmony rippling through the cosmos. It's not ending, it's beginning again, everywhere. Years later, the story of the children of starlight became the foundation of a new age. The Zenthari, the Kaerathi, and humanity together formed the Trium Accord, a union not of empires, but of hearts aligned in purpose. And at its center, Rion and Lysandra lived quietly, still tending their luminous gardens, still watching the skies with the wonder of their first meeting. One evening, as the sun set in radiant gold, Rion spoke softly. We started this as two souls on opposite sides of a battlefield, and ended as the reason the universe learned to love. He smiled, drawing her close. Then I'd say we did all right. She rested her head on his shoulder. Better than all right. We taught eternity to dream again. Above them, the stars flickered, not fading but breathing. Each light a promise, each pulse a reminder. That love, once kindled, becomes creation itself. From the seeds of love, new worlds are born. But creation never comes without consequence. When one of the awakened planets begins to evolve faster than nature should allow, the children of starlight must decide, do they protect the new world or let it find its own path, even if it means repeating the mistakes of the old ones? The Trium Accord had stood for 50 years, a harmony of Kaerathi intellect, human resilience, and Zentari wisdom. The Covenant's song had spread across the stars, planting the seeds of tomorrow on countless worlds. But one seed, one world, grew differently. The Zentari named it Elaray, the dreaming planet. It had bloomed in a system that should have been barren. Within a decade, oceans had formed, jungles shimmered, and its air carried the resonance of thought itself. Rion and Lysandra watched the readings from their home on Zentara. The crystalline monitors pulsed like hearts in sync. It's accelerating again. The last phase of growth took 2 centuries on Kaerathi. Elaray's doing it in 10 years. No natural flux behaves like this. It's conscious. You think one of the seeds woke early? Before she could answer, the door slid open. 4 luminous figures entered, their children, now adults, radiant with power and purpose. It's more than consciousness. The planet is dreaming in patterns. Look. He projected a holomap. Elaray's terrain shifted and pulsed, forming images that looked eerily human. Hands, faces, cities, then fractals of light forming symbols no one could read. It's trying to communicate, or remember. No, it's calling. The room pulsed faintly, the same resonance they'd felt decades ago when the Covenant first spoke. Lysandra and Rion exchanged a silent look. They both felt it too. The following morning, the Council of the Trium Accord convened in the Chamber of Origins, an amphitheater carved from living crystal, floating above the planet's core resonance. The matriarch's successor, Thalon, presided. His form glowed with steady calm, but his eyes betrayed concern. Elaray has awakened. Its surface sings in frequencies we do not understand. We must decide whether to intervene. Rion leaned forward. Intervene how? Containment, Thalon replied. If left unchecked, it could destabilize neighboring systems. Lysandra, containment would mean halting its evolution, killing its consciousness. Thalon, if it means preventing collapse, yes. A murmur swept the chamber. Mira rose to her feet. Elaray is alive. You can't silence it because it frightens you. We silence nothing. We preserve order. Order is what killed the old worlds. Her voice echoed, glowing symbols flickering faintly around her. Kale touched her arm gently. Sister, she shook him off. You all talk about harmony, but harmony without freedom is still a cage. Lysandra's voice cut through the rising tension, calm but commanding. Lysandra, enough. Elaray called for us once before through the Covenant. If it calls again, it may be because it remembers us. Rion and I will go. Thalon hesitated. It may be dangerous. Rion stood, resolute. So was love. We survived that. The chamber fell silent. The family departed aboard the Aurora's Breath II, a new vessel grown from Zentari harmonics and powered by Kaerathi flux cores. As they approached Elaray, the planet's beauty took their breath away. Clouds shimmered like silk across emerald continents. Rivers glowed faintly in the night. Storms of light spiraled above the poles. Not destructive but rhythmic like the heartbeat of a sleeping god. Solara, it's singing. I hear it too. The ship's instruments translated the resonance into audible tones, and there it was, a melody. Soft, evolving, almost familiar. It's the Covenant's lullaby, but changed. No, personalized. It's shaping itself to our frequency. It knows us. The ship began to tremble. Stabilize orbit. I'm trying. The gravitational fields were forming on its own. Outside, the planet's surface split in spirals of light. From its core rose an enormous crystalline spire, reaching toward them like an invitation. Rion, I think it wants us to land. They descended through luminous clouds, landing beside the spire that pulsed with energy. As they stepped out, the air shimmered, warm, breathable, resonant with their heartbeats. Aaron walked ahead, drawn as if by memory. The ground beneath him glowed with every step. It feels alive. Then a voice, gentle, ancient, and intimate, filled their minds. Welcome, children of starlight. You are my dream made flesh. Lysandra's breath caught. You can speak? You gave me the song of life. I learned its rhythm. I learned you. We didn't intend to create another consciousness. Intent is irrelevant. Creation listens to longing, not design. The family exchanged glances, wonder mixed with unease. What do you want from us? To understand why you stopped. Stopped? You brought harmony, then silence. Balance, then stillness. I was born to continue, yet I sense your hesitation. We feared what unrestrained creation might do. Then you have not learned the truth of love. It is not restraint that keeps the stars alive, it is trust. The ground shifted, and suddenly they stood not on alien soil but within visions, memories woven from light. They saw Earth's wars, Kaerath's fall, Xanthara's harmony, and the moment Lysandra and Rion first became light together. Then the visions changed, possible futures. Worlds born too fast, collapsing, civilizations devouring themselves, and others, radiant, kind, unbounded. Elleray, you must choose which future to nurture. You cannot guide and set free at once. Rion looked to his children. We've been trying to protect everything since the veil. Maybe it's time to let creation decide for itself. Lysandra's gaze softened. Even if it means losing it? Rion smiled faintly. We've lost everything before, and found each other again every time. Aaron stepped forward, his hand glowing. Then let's trust it. He pressed his palm to the spire. The planet pulsed in response, not violently but with warmth. The visions shattered into light, scattering across the sky like seeds of fire. Elleray, so be it. The choice is made. Creation will walk on its own. Days later, life erupted across Elleray. Forests of radiant flora, oceans alive with energy currents, creatures of light and matter breathing in unison. But what astonished them most were the voices. Soft, melodic, familiar. Solara, they're speaking Kaerathi? No, they're echoing our emotions. They learn by resonance, not words. Just like we did. Lysandra stood beside Rion, watching as their children played with the newborn creatures, laughing, teaching, living. We've done this before. Bled for it, died for it. Yes, but this time it's life that leads. They looked to the horizon where the spire stood, shining like a second sun. A symbol not of power, but of permission. Years passed. Elleray became the first living world recognized by the Trium Accord. No cities. No thrones. Only harmony between what was made and what was born. The children of starlight became its guardians, not rulers but guides. And every night, when the stars shimmered above its silver oceans, Rion and Lysandra sat beneath the glowing trees, their hands still entwined. Do you ever think about how far we've come? Every day. And every day, it feels like we're just beginning. If creation ever forgets why it began, then love will remind it. They kissed, and the planet sang in response, soft harmonies echoing across the universe. And far away in systems newly stirring to life, other seeds began to glow. The universe was no longer a story of survival. It was a story of love, learning how to create itself again.